Hello, Uganda. Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hot Seat on 933 KFM. I welcome you all, our listeners across this beautiful land, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Patrick Kamara. Tonight, my guest is Deputy Vice President of the Democratic Party. My guest is a former Member of Parliament in the East African Legislative Assembly in Arusha. My guest is the legal advisor of Umuwano, which is an association that brings together all the Ugandan Banyarwanda. My guest is Dr. Fred Mukasa-Mbide. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Kamara. It's quite some time meeting here, particularly on this show.
Well, I'm honored to see you, and,
yes.
and of course looking very sharp as usual. And
thank you.
And I didn't know how you even became a legal advisor of the Ugandan Banyarwanda, but I was attempted even to greet you in Kinyarwanda. I was about to say Wiriwe, but don't let me go there. Dr. Mukasa-Mbide, there are so many areas I would want to ask, first of all, from the Democratic Party, the East African community, the agenda of integration, which seems not to be happening, but also what is now in the current trending right now is you had, I think, a meeting with President Yoweri Museveni.
Yes.
As the Ugandan Banyarwanda.
Yes.
I don't know even whether that is even the right way how to put it, because how can I even say the Kenyan Ugandans?
you can imagine, and so clearly these were Ugandans.
Yes.
They were clustered because the Kinyarwanda speakers in Uganda all Christian themselves Ugandan Banyarwanda. Sometimes others adopt other specificities in terms of names. Others call themselves Bavandimwe, of course, depending on where they came from. Others do not even Christian themselves Banyarwanda. But there was a very serious meeting, and in which meeting we actually got
the people of the Rwandan origin who have lived or born or even have our sisters in Uganda meeting the President of the Republic of Uganda at State House, right?
Yes, they are Kinyarwanda speakers. Particularly, somebody might, of course, obviously, erroneously think that all Kinyarwanda speakers are of Rwanda origin.
They are not.
Not all. Some have, because especially, except if you are speaking about the former Rwanda-Urundi kingdom. But you see, the Republic of Rwanda commenced on 1st January 1962. May 1962.
As the modern state of Rwanda.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, it is very unlikely that you will find persons that originate from that state, except those that came during the 1994 revolution. So the rest of the persons everybody is talking about were the subject of state formations. Just like all of those that came, the Joko Winyi, Joko Molo, persons that when we were still lingering under the corridors of state formations in Africa, everybody is an immigrant. In Uganda here, we only had the Batwa. Everybody just came.
We came from somewhere.
Yes, we all just came. It is just a question of when somebody came. Now, when you begin establishing a cutoff point, you must first of all justify it. Uganda's cutoff point under our constitution is 1926. You look for justifications, you do not find it. So those are some of the intrinsics that person is needed first of all understand.
I think you or the situation has given Uganda such a huge problem.
Yes.
That it is very hard to solve, because you already have people,
yes,
Kinyarwanda speakers who are Ugandan through and through, just
completely,
like any one of us.
Completely.
People in Ntungamo,
yes,
people in Kisoro,
and in Pororo,
and people in Kigezi areas. These are Kinyarwanda speakers and are Ugandan like anybody.
Yes. Now,
and yet you have those who came in 1959 during the trouble in Rwanda.
Yes.
And they grew up here, probably they died here, but they have produced children here, and they have grandchildren here.
You have skipped to the 1930.
The 1930, 1959.
That came for labor. Now, you see, there are actually 5 clusters of Kinyarwanda speakers in Uganda. Now, the first cluster is the Mpororo, Kisoro, Ntungamo group. Now, those ones are actually within the boundaries of Uganda.
Before the formation of Uganda state, they were there.
Yes. And those are the subject of Article 10 of the Constitution of Uganda. And in fact, they are the Banyarwanda referred to in the Constitution of Uganda. But you see, there are many other Kinyarwanda speakers that thought they were the ones referred to. Now, the cluster of those that arrived here in the 1930s for labor purposes, when we were still, of course, a protected area by the British. Now, those are also, and they are, of course, all their descendants. Now, those are also Kinyarwanda speakers. In all areas of Kiboga, where, now, they are those that arrived here in the 1950s. Now, those ones were running away from the bad politics of ethnicity in the former, of course, Rwanda kingdom.
Yes.
Now, those are also spread evenly. Guluma Sindi, Fort Poto, Kasese, Njatolo, Mbale. They are in Masaka, Chiboga, and Nakasongola. They are also Kinyarwanda speakers. Then there are those that arrived here in the 90s, 1994.
94 during the genocide. Running away from the genocide.
Running away, yes. Now, those are also Kinyarwanda speakers. Now, what does the Constitution say? They are also that part, which is the fifth one, the subject of intermarriage. So that either of members of these clusters intermarried with the original geographically located ethnic communities in Uganda. Now, those are also taken care of under the Constitution, particularly Article 10. So Article 10 recognizes two sections of Kinyarwanda speakers. The first section is of Mpororo, Kisoro, and Itungamo. Those are Ugandans by birth. Now, the second one, it does not even matter whether you are born in Uganda or not, but for as long as either of your parents or grandparents were the subject of intermarriage, and either of them was a member of the indigenous ethnic community in Uganda, as at 1st February 1926, you are a citizen. So, there are only two clusters. But those that arrived in 1959, not a subject of intermarriage. Those arrived in 1930s, not a subject of intermarriage. And those that came in 1994, they are the same. They are called foreigners. Now, they have lived a life which is a figment.
Some of them it's 100 years.
Completely. It has been a figment of a fertile imagination that they are actually the Banyarwanda in the Constitution. In fact, some of them were members of the Constituent Assembly who actually jubilated and at the inclusion in the third schedule to the Constitution of an ethnic community called the Banyarwanda. They thought they are the ones. To their dismay, on applications for passports, particularly when we got, of course, the intermittent relations between Uganda and Rwanda, notwithstanding, when they started now being rejected on applications for national identity cards, passports, and of course, because of the new, the new established interest in labor externalization, all our young people want to go abroad.
Yes,
they go to the Middle East, do some bit of work for 2 years. They are usually 2-year contracts. And somebody gets back here with 30 million Uganda shillings. They begin now to participate in the money economy under mobile money. Others do this and that. Now, the young people who are actually offsprings of Kinyarwanda speakers started getting bounced. Now, they did not know. The fellow has a birth certificate, Mulago Hospital, a national ID, the Republic of Uganda, citizen. Parents were also born here.
If you are in an office in national identity, whatever registration, something
yes.
nearer,
yes.
you based on what to bounce me?
Now that is
because I have
yes.
If you are in immigration, you based on what to bounce me? You just look at me and imagine.
No, a member of the immigration desk is enjoined to question you upon your application to obtain a document of that nature. Now, at the subconscious level of his brain, the moment you mention anything in Kinyarwanda, he begins to know you are either of the 5 clusters I have mentioned. Now, the quizzing is to the extent that he discovers exactly. If both your parents, one is Ruzindana, the other one is Wase, now, the question is toward finding out the discovery of originality. If by descent you are not from Mporo, Lontunga, Manichisoro, he has already concluded you are not a Ugandan under this law. So, all of the questioning, the interrogation is geared towards the discovery. Is this part of the other cluster, the 1959, the 1930, 1994, or is he part of the intermarriage cluster, or the Kisoro borderline area.
I think
now,
before you go there, how does one acquire the Ugandan citizenship? How do you become a citizen?
It depends on the type.
Okay.
If you want to be a citizen of Uganda by birth, obviously, it is Article 10.
It says
This is what we have been talking about. Now, if you are a foreigner, but would want to have citizenship by registration, you renounce the foreign citizenship that you have obtained, or you have, then you, by registration, acquire what is called the naturalization procedure. Now, I have told you that all these people that were born here, from parents that just came, that had thought they were citizens of Uganda by birth, have now been told by an executive order.
So one cannot become a citizen of Uganda by birth. If foreigners came here,
gave birth to you,
gave birth to me, I'm not a Ugandan.
Completely. That is not the law. In fact, that is one of the proposals we are espousing. We are saying it is an international.
Some cases, even some of the people you are representing, actually, it's not only them. Their fathers were born here.
Yes.
And in some cases, even their grandfathers were born here.
That is very true.
These could be third generation Banyarwanda speakers.
That is very true. You know, countries that actually believe in modernity have modernized their law. A lot of people don't want us to mention the United States, which is okay. But we have got countries like the Republic of South Africa and even Tanzania here. It is an international principle referred to as jus soli, that one is a citizen of a country where that person is born. Now, we believe that citizenship is personal. It must not relate to anybody else, because it is a relationship between you and the government. It must be personal. But when you analyze Article 10 of the Constitution of Uganda, you find the anomalies that were actually established. Why? Number one, that for you to be a citizen of Uganda by birth, you can either be born in or outside Uganda, but to either of your parents or grandparents having been members of an indigenous ethnic community in Uganda as at 1st February. So it is a description. Now let me tell you, it is first of all extremely ambiguous, convoluted, and a description. Citizenship by birth should be evidenced by a birth certificate, because that certificate gives a full account of where you were born.
That's what it means, you're by birth.
Yes, but now a citizenship that requires you, it is ethnographic in nature. It is anthropological. You are almost now giving a whole story of the anthropology of your own descent and describing just one person. It was a mistake. Number two, ethnicity is not under one law. Citizenship is under municipal law. All lawyers know that with the citizenship, it is generally governed by the laws of the territory. But ethnicity is extraterritorial. It transcends one single territory.
Actually, if we did, they see what we call some kind of genetic analysis of where we came from.
Yes.
Even the people are saying you're not Ugandan, it can throw you in Cameroon.
Yes.
It can throw you in Angola.
Yes. So you can no longer rely on ethnicity to describe a person's relationship between them and the laws of a country. Because ethnicity is not for one country.
But don't you think that there was an error of judgment at the constitutional level to refer to people like those as Ugandan Banyarwanda? You can imagine you want to call some people as Zambian Kenyans.
No.
You call some people Angolan Namibians.
No, in Kenya, we have got persons called the Somali by ethnicity. But we also have the Republic of Somalia. In South Africa, we have got the Swana and the Soto. Yes, we have got Botswana and Lesotho. So sometimes it is generally the historicity by the descent, the characterization of persons from pursuant to where they came from. But what is more material? Because you see, some people had even proposed that don't call them Banyarwanda, call them some other thing, then it will be sorted. Then I said, hey, is it true? Because even rats know that even if you change the name of a cat, it is very unlikely that they will now start relating, because it is not in the name of the cat to eat rats. Well, it is in the character.
And we're going to cut there for now. We'll be right back.
933 933 KFM. KFM's Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Dr. Fred Mukasambide, DP Vice President, Legal Advisor of the Ugandan Banyarwanda community, former Member of Parliament of Iyala. But when we talk about the Kinyarwanda speaking community in Uganda,
Yes.
what kind of population are we talking about? I mean, in terms of numbers.
In terms of numbers, of course, when you look at in seriatim, the chronology of censuses that had been held since the 50s, you find that it is an estimation of over 6 million people in Uganda.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. You
yes.
believe that?
Yes.
6
million
million people are of Kinyarwanda speakers
spread evenly in Uganda. In fact, there was a time recently when we were moving up and down.
Do you realize if that's the case,
yes,
it either puts you to number 2 in terms of ethnic
yes.
strength in
yes.
numbers.
Yes.
Maybe next to Baganda.
That is very true.
Or Riversoga. You're definitely more than us, the Batoro.
That is
very, numbers.
Very correct.
And the Banyarwanda and the other communities.
Yes.
So we're talking about a very big community.
It is
so
an extremely...
How does a country or a leader or lawmakers disentangle themselves from 6 million people?
You see, here, there's what we call, because you see the politics of the country now, the majority, the directing mind and will of the politics of the country are actually what we call, they run a show which is majorly celebrity panjandra.
And what is that?
and
come on, don't take me to that route.
No. I am telling you, one man told me, and I think that assessment was correct, that because of the low relative political maturity of the masses, we have led ourselves into a situation where if you were to calculate the membership of parliament pursuant to the victories obtained in the last elections, most members of parliament didn't win, but voters won. So the lowest relative political maturity of the masses in East Africa is in Uganda now, and the immature politicians are voting for their own, so they have quorum. So it is completely idiotic that we have got, for example, a legislature full of persons that are not aware of what they are supposed to do. Number 2, the constitution making process had a lot of competitions, but that we are now intellectually based. The competitions were for purposes of, one, they had identified that the head of state of the time had preferred a limitation of 2 terms to be inserted in the constitution. So power struggles ensued. Now, Banyarwanda had made a very serious contribution into the liberation struggle. And they thought those that were in the queue, the Banyarwanda were actually affront. Now, the calculation was to the extent that then, if Banyarwanda would be affront, let us now consider boundary demarcation for qualification. The 59ers, mind you, participated in the war because they were put in what we call a Skyland Karibu principle. It is a rock and a hard place. Mm-hmm. They had no way of calling Rwanda home because of the politics of the day. But at the same time, they were here but had suffered some interminable dismissals from the Obote government. So meaning they were a fertile
discrimination.
Yes. They were a fertile recruitment ground for the revolutionary struggles of 1979 up to 1986. So their participation was unequaled. These fellows in the queue, the imaginary queue,
facing an existential threat.
Yes.
And they had so many reasons to fight.
So they participated.
They are fighting to liberate Uganda,
yes.
Fighting to liberate themselves, fighting for identity.
That is true. So those that were choreographing an imaginary queue after Museveni thought that these guys would take their place. So in the constitution, it was then planned that the threshold of 1926 be established. Because it has no originality in the laws of Uganda. Yes. They targeted the 59ers, including the 1930s. but it has no originality. When you look at, the history of law, for us we call it jurisprudence. When you ask Banyarwanda, they keep telling you about a lot of history, but all those people now can't get passports if they returned. Now, what you need to look at is the historicity of legal provisions on citizenship. The first registered citizen in Uganda had to be the subject of the first British Protected Persons Order, 1934. So even that one now begins in 1934, where Uganda in the schedule was number 12. So that means that anybody that established the 1926 threshold in the Constitution, one, invented it from no other law. Two, that was not a boundary for Uganda. It was a boundary for a protectorate.
It takes me back to the history that we learned in primary.
Yes.
And I'm beginning to doubt whether they're telling us lies, especially in Uganda. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect.
Please do.
Because the first person in Uganda was called Kintu, right? But we also told the Kintu came from Masabaland. But then he married somebody called Nambi, who was a Muganda. But then they produced children. One is Kakama, Runyankore name, and another one is Kairu, Runyankore. Another is Kahima.
And he had a cow. And there are no cows in Uganda. So
no, the cows are there, but do you realize that the history we studied in primary is telling us there was somebody called the Kintu who also came from the east. And then the children they produced, there was a Kakama and the Kairu. If you remember that.
That history.
Anyway, I think maybe they lied to, maybe the history, the people who were teaching us were lying to us.
It falls in the category.
Or maybe it presupposes that we are such a mixed community from way back.
It falls in the category of those things that we call teradidos. They are very nice lies, but they are believable. Because when somebody runs away, he goes to Tanda, then he's called Walumbe, then and that he accounts now for the death of persons today. Of course, you obviously find that is not correct. You can't find a priest who tells you that such stories were correct, because priests also believe we came from Adam and Eve. Now, for us lawyers, we are not allowed to question a lot, because when those pharaohs started producing other children, we cannot account to the spouses, in terms of spouses that they belong to.
So now let's look at what is legal to be the executive order that you are scared about, or maybe your community is.
So the executive order is not.
It's not yet there, but we are envisaging that it's legal.
It is coming because
it's come even tonight.
Because it's coming tonight because
you can't be sure, but
no, I'm very sure. By the time we are out of this show, I am sure it will be there. If not, it cannot go beyond 10 o'clock of tonight. It will be out. Now, the contents of that order, we are read to us. To the advantage of the listeners, an executive order are executive instructions. Now, our constitution and Article 2 is very clear that no authority can issue orders that contravene the constitution. So clearly it will be an interpretation of the provisions of the laws of Uganda. Now, it is only going to cement the interpretation I have given you, that 6 million people are going to be called foreigners. Yet, they are not aware of any other country they belong to. They were born here. So, they are going to be declared stateless against all provisions of sub-regional legislations. The Universal Declaration of Fundamental Rights or Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and even the African Protocol itself, African Union Protocol against statelessness, which has been also, of course, masterminded by our own leaders.
I see something good is likely to come from this order, because now Ugandans and the leadership will be compelled to look at this issue that is affecting 6 million Ugandans more correctly, and probably embed it properly, and maybe entrench it. And if that could be the word, in the Constitution.
And I will be the happiest, because we are not going to rest. We are going to continue unconcernedly to inform, sensitize, and make sure we continue to lobby government to reconsider its position. I saw
somebody quoting you in different platforms on social media that you are calling for a fresh and urgent dialogue with the president for a fair solution.
Yes.
You just met the president.
He promised one. We met.
But you already met him.
When we met him, it looked like a preconceived procedure where he had invited the Banyarwanda speaking groups in order to take them through provisions of the executive order he has issued. Now, when he gave me an opportunity to explain to him for an hour the legal wrongs and the improprieties in the constitution, and of course from which all the other laws emanated that have turned our people into stateless persons, and the fact that these people were actually Ugandans by birth, under the laws that preceded the orders of Britons, the British Protected Persons Order, the Nationality Act 1948-49, the 1962 Constitution 66-67, and that 1995 people did not have authority to amend citizenship by birth, the same way they didn't have authority to amend boundaries. He bought my idea, but he said, we are not going to talk law here. Let us now do this. That one is strategic. And in my opinion, I knew he had got my point. Then we asked for a new meeting because he had been consistently and repeatedly met by persons that didn't provide this opportunity, this actual legal opinion. Now, when I provided one, he asked the Attorney General, because this opinion is backed by two reports. The first report is the parliamentary report recently. The second report is the Human Rights Commission report of last year. It equally talks about stateless persons that are going to become to a tune of over 6 million people. He accepted that we are going to have another meeting. So my lobbying continues, but at the same time, the moment the document comes out, the executive order, to be within the interest of court's time of the East African Court of Justice, we are going to go to court too. Because you see, it gives a threshold of a 60-day rule. We might be caught up by the 60-day rule if we do not approach court before, of course, matters are resolved. So we will seek also court interpretation. The appropriate court would have been the African Court on Human and People's Rights. But you see, East African countries do not support access to justice. They have not deposited a declaration. Uganda hasn't deposited a declaration that allows you and I to run to the African Court on Human and People's Rights to sue. Because under the protocol, Article 34, Clause 6, it requires the partner state the state party to deposit that declaration. It's like...
it's ratifying?
Yes.
Okay.
So you pass a protocol, there is a charter, a protocol is passed for the court, you appoint judges, but again you put a proviso that we shall for us first deposit declaration. And for over how many years? I sued Uganda, Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, and Rwanda deposited during the process of the hearing of the matter. But up to today, it is almost 20 years since the protocol had been signed, and we don't have that order. It is only recent that I had some process being undertaken to have a possibility of depositing. You see, Uganda, we must be very clear. So we'll go to the East African Court.
Dr. Fred Mokasambide, hold on to your point. We're going to take a break and the hot seat will be right back.
933 KFM. The hottest debate on all relevant topics live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday 7 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the hot seat. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guest this evening is Dr. Fred Mokasambide, who's also a Deputy Vice President and former Member of Parliament representing Uganda in the East African Legislative Assembly. So now, you want to go to court, but I think the whole problem has come from the abuse of Ugandan documents by some people who want to do their other things, clandestine, subversive, and any other thing. Because if it wasn't that because people want to abuse the Ugandan passport, you want to abuse the Ugandan Dangamuntu, maybe we wouldn't have been here. And how do you stop when you already have 6 million Kinyarwanda speakers? And anybody from Congo, anybody from Rwanda, anybody from Burundi who has his other motive can easily abuse these documents using...
Yes. Of course, you are partly right. This is a governance issue. Criminality is everywhere, irrespective of whether you're a citizen or not. Al-Shabaab here are not citizens of Uganda, but we have been bombed severally. So clearly, this is not about citizenship. It is about criminality. It is about culpability. There must be somebody who is a criminal. So the country needs to develop systems that are capable of detecting criminality wherever it applies. So we proposed, because for us we have even drafted a memorandum with a proposed bill that can amend the constitution and of course the introduction of other amendments in the substantive citizenship law, to include among others a process of identification and certification. Because we don't want a situation where a person can belong, for example, to 2 countries unnoticed as a citizen. But that can be done. We are not going to teach government on how to govern if they do not want to govern. So, but we are actually pointing at the possibility that one can do it. What happened? For example, when you look at Congo had the same issue because they are liberals. Yes, and I will get there. The liberals of 1925 under the 1885 Berlin Conference were allowed to come from all places to occupy Congo. They came, but by the enactment of the 1960 Constitution, it was declared that everybody who was there is a citizen. If it were not, of course, hampered by the wrongful activities of the subsequent governments, of the then man who named it after Zaire, I think it was Mobutu,
and all this.
He is trying to establish some distinctive measures of, for example, dealing with all the ethnic communities, the Bahundes and the Kinyarwanda speakers of North Kivu and what. If there was no such a problem of wanting to amend the constitution to declare them non-citizens, they would never have a problem. Of course, their second problem was those that were running away from the genociders of FDLR.
But the Kinyarwanda speakers who migrated, were there before Congo became a republic.
That's what I'm saying.
In Mount Mulenge, and they are called Banyamulenge.
Yes. So all of those, the 1960 Constitution recognized them. The Banyarwanda we are talking about here were also here by the 1962 Constitution, which recognized them. So subsequent governments usually cause problems. 1971, Amin persecuted Banyarwanda, thinking they are the ones that actually are reorganizing his departure. Then Obote's government also came and accused them of having masterminded state research processes. Then the 1980 war, of course, now flashed out Obote. Today, they are being, of course, referred to as non-nationals for all intents and purposes. In my opinion, if we are, for example, if you took any of our leaders here to lead America, what would they do? Because in America, you can't write the history of immigration in America.
Well,
immigration is the history itself.
America is a land of immigrants.
Yes.
But it's also a land of laws.
But you can imagine that they are, and clearly this is what we are talking about. So we need laws. This is a governance matter. It cannot be a matter where you are identifying people with uniform to become ethnic citizens to the extent then that you think that solves the criminal questions of a country. It is not true. We can look at the laws. We can look at establishment of institutions and their robustness of approach in work. That is what can solve criminality.
So, just as we speak here, and I'm pondering about the Banyarwanda or Kinyarwanda speaking community in Africa.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, it could be actually one of the biggest communities in Africa than any other. Yes. Because you have a whole 2 nations, Rwanda, you have Burundi, you have Eastern Congo.
Yes.
You have western parts of Western Tanzania.
That is true.
You have Southern Uganda and Western Uganda, plus other places. Mm-hmm. So, Kinyarwanda speaking community in Africa could perhaps be the biggest community. Probably you're rivaling the Somalis, amid your Oromos. You're certainly more than anybody else in the Sub-Saharan.
That is why we.
In terms of numbers.
That is very true. And the solution.
And that also could be looked at with the Aleke threat.
Yes, but you see, when we have leaders that look forward to an establishment of one, an East African community country, and 2, a country called Africa, through of course, the Constitutive Act establishing the African Union, one would never think that the same presidents would begin now to look intrinsically, internally, beginning to sort out who must not even belong to their own small entities, called the countries, that they wanted to take as contributions to the establishment of big nations. In my opinion, I think it is a contradiction.
I'm actually surprised to see that President Museveni is about to sign this order, like you said.
Yes.
Yet he is ahead of everybody else.
Yes.
On the integration of the East African community, on the on Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
He never thinks small. Why is it that on this time around?
I don't know. This must be a new president that I am not aware of. Because this is not the president that okayed a summit decision that East Africans can travel on their national identity cards, as if East Africa is one country. In fact, in the ears of every Ugandan, they think, because I saw one professor who actually was arguing, we were in one of the aircrafts moving. He was arguing because in Kenya, when he arrived, he's a Ugandan professor. When he arrived in Kenya, he was asked, where are you going to be staying? For how many days? And he was saying, we are in the East African community. How can they ask me such? At the subconscious level of his brain, he thought East Africa is already one country. Now, if people's minds have moved faster than our leaders, then that is something we must look at.
Let me tell you, remove Yoweri Museveni today, this East African community project will collapse.
But
then, I don't think other leaders have the kind of enthusiasm and energy and passion like he has for the integration of the East African community.
Yes, it is true. It is true that.
But
you know, when you look at a vehicle and the fuel, the truth is that motion consumes fuel. The movement of a vehicle consumes fuel, but it could be moving on a roundabout to the extent that the distance cannot be justifying the fuel consumption. I think that is what East Africa is doing. Because you cannot tell me that you want us to integrate when persons in your own country are almost just, you are beginning to give them permits to move around than being citizens of a country by birth. Because the executive order is just a permit. It is going to allow people to apply for citizenship by registration. These are second-class citizens.
What is the matter? Because when you look at
now, this is what
Banyarwanda speaking communities in the east, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Kivu, in the areas of Mulenge, that they are called them Banyamulenge, they're having trouble with the Congolese. When you look at the Banyarwanda speaking community in Tanzania, including some actually who were kicked out by the government of Kikwete, from Isingiro with their cows back into Uganda. They were in trouble with the United Republic of Tanzania. And now you seem to be having trouble with the government in Uganda. So with all respect, what's the problem? Why
yes.
Why do we keep seeing a spike of such controversies around the region?
Because it is like I told you, there is a language associated with the country. Somalis also have trouble because their language, characterization, descent is associated with the current problem.
Actually, there's a Somali region in Ethiopia.
Yes. It does not matter. For me, what I think, because you know that we have got a country called Somalia, but without proper government. But we also have Somaliland with a democracy, but without proper recognition as a country. These are things that we must deal with. Now, historically, Banyarwanda moved across all regions for labor, but sometimes also as refugees. But that was a point before which states had obtained sovereignty as substantive states. To the extent that one cannot now imagine having such people contemplated as if they are on a list of refugees when actually there was no sovereign state.
No, it was very interesting. I went to Bunia in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as a war correspondent back in the day.
Yes.
And I met this beautiful Congolese woman who was speaking Lingala, and my Lingala is not good, speaking Swahili. My Swahili is work in progress, and speaking French. And she had run away from a community that had been attacked, a place called Drodro. And I wanted to interview her. So for almost 7 hours, we were looking at each other and trying to say in language, and we can't. Somehow I'm like, but this lady, let me ask in her Swahili what her ethnicity is. So I said, lakini we kabila gani? Said, Miko Muhema. Then he said, Jina yako nani? I said, Jina yangu Kabahita. I said, what's your name? What's your ethnicity? I said, I'm a Muhima. In Congo, they're called Bahema.
Bahema.
I said, what's your name? He said, my name is Kabahita.
Yes.
I said, Kabahita, no Hurortoro. She said, but yeah, I said, you can speak Rutoro. He said, yes. You can imagine we are looking at each other for 7 hours.
That is true.
And then later I realized this is a Congolese who is speaking my language.
That is true.
And later I learned people who speak my language, which is Rutoro, are many more in Congo than we are in Uganda.
That is true.
We're going to take a break. We're taking a break.
You see, when you look at
We're taking a break.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
yes,
Yes, hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hello Kasozi, my name is Humphrey. I'm calling you from the Mobile Service Center.
Okay. So how can I help you?
Well, we have noticed a few things wrong with your number and need your mobile money PIN so that we can ensure that your money is safe. You know, these days Wafede have become very clever. They can clear your account. So send me your PIN number so that I can send you a private verification code that can only be activated by your PIN.
But Chief, what you're saying doesn't really make sense.
Makes sense? So now you know you better than me. If you don't read out your PIN now, I'm going to disconnect your line permanently and you will lose all the money on your phone.
But you, Mferechap, why are you shouting at me yet you want to steal my money? I'm not as silly as you think.
Don Farah, never give out your password or PIN to any caller. Your mobile service provider will never call or ask for your personal details. If in doubt, go to your nearest phone service center or to your bank branch and verify the query. Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagement with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
that is true. even him, we almost threw papers at him, but he respected my opinion. And for me, that was enough.
The best airline in the world. We fly you to over 140 destinations, and with partners across the globe, we connect you to another 1,700 cities across 6 continents. So when we say we're also the largest international airline, what we really mean is, if you're going there, so are we. Book now on Emirates.com. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
The K-Drive. The K-Drive.
Hi, Nessa, how are you?
Very good, how are you?
I want to say hi to Yada. I really miss this dog so much.
You do? You miss Yada. Yada is
They
here.
have been castigating internal affairs.
The K-Drive. The K-Drive.
Neither.
Oh my God, hi Yada.
They didn't know what the problem was.
Yada.
The K-Drive. The K-Drive. Monday to Friday, 3 to 7 p.m. on the fresh and reloaded 933 KFM.
933, 933. KFM.
KFM's Hot Seat. Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is Dr. Mukasa Fred Mbide, who is a former member of parliament representing East Africa in the East African Legislative Assembly in Arusha, but is also the legal advisor of the Mubano, or the Banyarwanda community in Uganda. By the way, how many communities? There's Bavandimwe.
Of course, some are just mere nomenclatures. But what you may have to completely understand is that these are all Ugandan Banyarwanda. You see, before we broke.
Hello.
Okay. Well, to conclude that, I have.
Yes. You see, Ugandans were fond of. They were almost banning NIRA and internal affairs.
Hello.
Not knowing it is a law.
I'm going to pick a call later, but you conclude your point first.
Not knowing that it was a function of the wrong law, the bad law. So, at least one thing we have achieved, Ugandans now know that they have been declared stateless.
Okay. Just hold your point now. So I'm going to call to open the line so that Ugandans can have a conversation with you. I didn't want just to break up the flow of your idea, as they call it. So the lines are open now. You can call in and make your point and be heard. Hello, I have a call online. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Kamara.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm very interested. That Englishman has explained. You know, he's an Englishman. He has the best vocabulary in this country. He has explained very well. But I want to know, I'm curious. Ugandans who go to Rwanda say they are mistreated, they are spied on, They are what? They are here clamoring for citizenship here. But they are mistreating Ugandans who come to their country. In Tanzania, France, doubt. Still they are free to mix up with the community. Eh? Why do they have that nature of being so protective in their own country? Yet they want to go on, they are like imperialists. Eh? They want to go on capturing, being citizens in all the neighbors. Yet they don't treat the others well.
All right. Did we lose that caller or what? He was still making his point. I have a call on line. Hello.
Hello, Kamala. Thanks for the program.
You're welcome. Go right ahead.
Mr. Mbide, you have brought the Kotu into the studio and we cannot comprehend the camaraderie you have created there. Thank you so much. The Banyarwanda community, we ask them to, the way how the previous caller has called in, is say they are part of us. They have married within us. They actually have grandchildren among ourselves. There is no way you can call Mukasambide the name of Mbide a Banyarwanda now, but he's a Banyarwanda. So I would think that the government should think twice on the decision of them.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you for your point. Let me take another call online. Hello.
Kamara, this is Juma calling from Busega.
Yes, go right ahead, Juma.
Yes, well, me, I have no problem with whatever concerning the where we come from. But let it not be people of Uganda is the one considered me. Let the other side say that I'm also together easy ethnic groups. Those who are sharing the boundaries, apart from the colonial map, should make sure they get back on home. This issue of national IDs, even for sure, money issues here in Uganda is being run by the Banyarwanda, very many of them. But now, we are being mistreated. So let the government look way forward.
Juma in Busega, thank you so much. Let me take another call online. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Patrick Kamara.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Mr. Luoman from Tawenda.
Luoman Omera. Itieni Omera. Okay, go right ahead. We shall take Luo later.
Okay, now I want to ask Mr. Mbide, what is talking about in Uganda and how Uganda are treating Rwanda? Is it also happening in Rwanda for Uganda who are there? Is it, what are they talking also? They are talking the same in Rwanda.
All right. Thank you very much. He's going to answer that. And let me take just two more. Hello?
Mr. Kamala.
Yes, good
evening.
Good evening. What's your name, sir, and where are you calling from?
This is Stephen from Uganda.
Stephen in Uganda.
Yes. Honorable Nkulamusizasero.
Nange tata.
Kakati nze nkola mu recruitment hapa ntwala abantu bwe. Naye honorable kyoliko oba bannayuganda kyetuliko kyennyamiza. Abaana bangi balemeddwa okufuna passport ng'ate baana banaku. Tutwala abaana banaku abagenda mu Middle East. Nze mbadde ngezaako okuyamba abaana okufuna passport genda ebweru. Kulabirira abaana baabwe, kulabirira bakadde baabwe, abaana abanaku. Abatamanyi na ntalo gavumenti zerimu oba bya polisi oba byaki naye ng'abaana abo tebalina kyebamanyi.
Okay. Thank you very much. The last caller, then the Honorable Mbide will respond to all of your calls. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Kamara.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, I'm calling from Soroti.
Soroti, what's your name, sir?
I'm Odeke Joseph.
Odeke?
Yes, Joseph.
Okay, Odeke Joseph. Okay, I suppose you're an interested. I shouldn't be asking that, but okay, go right ahead, sir.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Seriously, the government should help on that issue of the Rwandese.
Sure.
Because they take themselves like they are the founders, you know. They take themselves really like they want to press the Ugandans on a serious note in every department. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. You, the callers, you've listened some Ugandans speak, some of them. Quickly go through them in the interest of time.
Thank you very much. Those that have asked government to really make sure this matter is handled, thank you so much. There is an executive order which is coming. The only thing it is going to provide for is streamlining the nature of evidence for you to prove that you are a citizen applicant for naturalization, and that is going to be a very big problem. I can tell you that the country needs to handle this before, of course, it runs before out of hand. Some have asked, why isn't it being done also in Rwanda? Now, the persons called Banyarwanda have nothing to do with Rwanda. That is something I must state succinctly for all of you to understand. These are Kinyarwanda speakers. They are like the Lesotho of South Africa that have got nothing to do with Lesotho. They are like the Somali in Uganda that have got nothing to do with either Somaliland or Somalia. They are like the Swana of South Africa that have entirely got nothing to do with the Republic of Botswana. So these have nothing to do with the Republic of Rwanda. In fact, they have no answers to any questions you want to pose about Rwanda. Now that is something, of course, it is something that has been it is the enigma in Uganda, in the population of Ugandans. They feel that whenever you talk about Banyarwanda, then ultimately somewhere you are talking and addressing something to do with Rwanda. That is not the case.
All right.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much, Dr. Mukasa Mbede. I also want to thank the listeners who have been able even to participate, because when you participate, you make the thing better for us. And I thought I was going to. By the way, you're still vice president of.
Yes, I am.
There's somebody called Kagenda, Patrick Kagenda. He was asking, "Is Mukasa Mbede Mnyarwanda?" I mean, I think you saw. I was like, okay, I will put the question to him himself.
Yes. My late father was a Mnyarwanda. My mother is a Muganda. The constitution takes care of me.
For you, okay now.
For me, I'm safe.
Because one of your parents is what?
Is a member of an indigenous ethnic community. So, but I am talking about persons that are not the result of any intermarriage. They have always believed they are Ugandans by birth. They have got national IDs. The IDs are going to expire, and they think they are going to renew them. Yet they are only going to collapse, and they become entirely new persons. Okay. That might even lose their land in the process.
So let me test you. Mukasa Mbede, uvuga Nyarwanda?
Sinchizi cyane ariko kiragoye, but I can speak a little. You're even better.
Thank you so much, Mukasa Mbede. Thank you, Mutware. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of the Hot Seat. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same station. And for those who have been listening, I want to thank you for the privilege of your company. Good night and God bless you, Uganda.